YouTube, it might be easier.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Yeah, 'cause I think some devotees who see it on Facebook just see the YouTube presentation. They don't see the Zoom, so I think some
Correct.
people,
Yes.
yeah. Mm-hmm. So let me know whenever.
Oh, I was like, hold on, let me
Mhm.
mute the gotta mute the audio on YouTube because I hear it 3 times otherwise. Okay. And if you want to start, we can start and I'll let people in as they get here, I guess.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start
Oh,
the.
someone's already coming. Here comes Palika Prabhu.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna start the prayers and then going. Hey Shri Guru Ganadas Swananda Datta Karanaya Sindhu Vrindavana Sina Avatar Prasida Shirara Pranaya Prachara Ajanulambita Bhujo Kanakavaralato Sankirtanai Kapitaro Kamlaya Taksho Vishwambaro Dvijoyo Yugadama Palo Bande Jigapriya Karo Karunavataro Ananda Lilamaya Vigrahaya Hemam Devatsha Vishwandaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rashaparaya Shri Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Kaspiriti Lakam Lalata Patale Vaksena Kostavam Nasagre Vanamuktikam Karatare Venu Karakankaram Sava Angahari Chandanam Sulalitam Kanta Muktavali Rajastrio Parivesido Vijayate Gopala Chudamani He Shisham Sundara Shikara Shekara Smiraha Sumili Manohara Radhika Rasika Mama Kripanidi Sapriya Charana Kinkarim Guru Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyai Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam Yat Kinkreshu Vausa Kalu Kakavani Nitapurasha Purushasha Kandamuli Tashagadara Sanideva Sabanu Jayas Tatkeli Kunjabavanangana Majani Shama Bhajami Radha Ravinda Netram Smarami Radha Madhura Smitasham Vadhami Radha Karuna Varajam Tato Mamanastigati Nakapi Pakita Vihina Yaparada Lakshay Shiptascha Kamarita Rangamaje Kripa Mai Twang Sharanam Prapana Vrinde Namaste Charanaravindam Kanaka Jalada Gatro Nila Sobhagya Netro Mrigumara Baravalo Malate Kundamalo Taruna Vesho Nilampitam Baresho Smaranini Britani Kunjerarika Krishna Chandro Vancha Kalpatruvescha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Madhanavat Pranam devotees. So, really happy to be on. And for those who are either on the live stream on YouTube or here directly on the Zoom, my Dandavad Pranam. So, at the request of Sriman Harinamananda Prabhu, slightly early, we are doing the Katha of Sri Janmasthami. Janmasthami is also called Krishna Jayanti. And in fact, this word Jayanti can only technically be used to describe Krishna Janmashtami. According to Shastra, because Krishna is the origin of all avatars, also because Krishna's appearance takes place during this particular time, and there's a constellation situation also, which makes it a Jayanti. So actually, it's very unique to Sri Krishna that his appearance is called Krishna Jayanti. Baladev's appearance day is Baladev Purnim, or you have Varastami, Gaur Purnim, Ram Nomi, but only Krishna is Krishna Jayanti. Of course, just philosophically speaking, the word Jai in general means victory. So here, by saying Krishna Jayanti, it really not only refers to Krishna, though we can only technically use it to describe Krishna Janmashtami, but Jayanti means that Sri Krishna, who is the origin of all other incarnations. In Brahma Samhita, it's mentioned, Ramadi Murteshu Kala Niyamena Tishtan, that Krishna is the origin of all the other incarnations headed by Sri Ramchandra. And because of that, all the various incarnations come to the world, which we'll get into shortly, in order to carry out particular missions. And those missions aim at Jai. Jai means victory over the material energy and also victory for the Lord in his enjoyment of rasa in so many different incarnations, performing so many different leelas. So that brings us to a question first. And I used to start my Harikatha about Janmashtami always with this question. Why is it that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the cause of all causes, that person who is described as Atmaram and Aptakam. So Aptakam, Atmaram, we know this word, means someone who's self-satisfied. But Aptakam means that person also can obtain anything and who's the possessor of everything. They're also called Aptakam. So why would it be necessary for that person who is the original person, who is the personification of everything? Because in Brahma Samhita, again, it's mentioned there, Ishvara Parama Krishna Satchit Ananda Vigraha. In Krishna's own form, Vigraha means his form, eternal existence is there, full cognition and knowledge of everything is there, and the highest kind of Ananda or bliss is there. That person is Anadi Adi Govinda, his name is Govinda, and Savakarana Karanam. He is the cause of all other causes. So what is it that causes Sri Krishna to make a descent as an avatar, especially personally? Even if you rationalize that Krishna made many appearances in different incarnations at different times for different reasons, what would be the necessity of the original form of God, Swayam Bhagavan Sri Krishna, to make a descent to this world as an avatar, not only once, but regularly in each day of Brahma? So one day of Brahma is, I think, some 6 billion years and change. So once in the 28th cycle, Brahma's day and night are really 1,000 yugas taken together. So the daytime is 1,000 yugas. And a yuga means the 4 ages, like Satya, Treta, Dwapa, and Kali. So Satya Yuga is 1,728,000 years. The Treta Yuga is 1,296,000 years. Dwapa Yuga is 864,000, and Kali Yuga is 432,000. When those go around one time, it is called the Maha Yuga or Divya Yuga. So thousands of those, 1,000 of those is just Brahma's day. And similarly, 1,000 of those cycles are his night. So in the 28th of those cycles, once in a day of Brahma, Sri Krishna makes his appearance, and prior to Krishna's appearance, Sri Ramachandra comes, and subsequent or the sequel to Krishna's appearance will be Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So I'll also get into speaking about why that's important. But our original question is, why does that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Swayam Bhagavan, the original personality of Godhead, need to make an avatar not once, but every day of Brahma? And not only in one universe, but when one pastime appears in this world, for instance, in our particular universe, Krishna's Janma Lila appears. It means he takes his birth, and I'll get into that in detail shortly. But immediately after the birth of Krishna in this universe, that same pastime is repeated in another universe, then another universe, and another universe. So our acharyas have described, it's just like if you take a piece of wood, and actually in my old Boy Scout days, I do remember doing this. You take a piece of wood and you dip it in any kind of flammable liquid, and then you light it and you have it on a rope. And then once you twirl the rope, right, it looks like that one piece of wood is making a continuous circle of fire. So in the same way, the acharyas describe that Krishna's Leela is rotating through all the universes like that. So it appears in this universe, one Leela at a time is Janma Leela, Then his Janma Leelas in another place. Then, for instance, the killing of Putana takes place here. Then in the next universe, killing of Putana. So in this way, actually, the Leelas are eternally going on in a cycle throughout the universes. They're only manifest or unmanifest. So when they are manifest, it is called Prakat Leela. And of course, when that Leela disappears, what's the entire Leela of Krishna, when he performs it here in the our universe or any universe, lasts for 125 human years. So, but because the Leelas are cycling through all the universes, they're simply becoming manifest or unmanifest. So the question still remains, why is it necessary for Krishna to make such a Leela, especially personally, when he has so many incarnations? If you look in Srimad Bhagavatam, it mentions that the waves of the ocean are compared to the amount of avatars of Krishna. We know 10 prominent avatars, and we know many other minor, or not, shouldn't say minor, but other avatars. But Krishna's actual incarnations in various forms is unlimited. So why is it necessary for that original, again, personality of Godhead to make his appearance in this world? So Krishna himself, he is Atmaram, as I mentioned. So Atmaram means he is completely self-satisfied. But it's written in Shastra that there are two kinds of happiness. One is called Atmaramita, which means that happiness which is derived from one's own existence. And of course, Krishna's existence is par excellence. So therefore, he has the complete form of self-happiness. But another kind of happiness is called Pararamita. The word para in Sanskrit means others. So when there's happiness, that's derived from the association and exchange with others. It is called Pararamita, and it is considered superior to Atmaramita. So there is a secret to Krishna's being Atmaram, however. It is written in the Skanda Purana. Atmaramas tu Radhika Tasya Ramana Evaso Atmaramas iti prokta Munibhi Guyavedi. So it's mentioned that the confidential meaning, the Guya meaning of how Krishna's Atmaram is that his own pleasure potency personified, Srimati Radhika, is always doing Ramana or giving pleasure within the heart of Krishna. So even when Krishna is Atmaramita, secretly he's internally enjoying with his own Shakti. So it is really Pararamita. You understand? When he manifests that Pararamita amongst not only Srimati Radhika, but among all of the devotees of the Lord, not only in the highest abode of Goloka Vrindavan, but also in all of the Vaikunthas and Ayodhya Dham of Ramachandra and many other Leelas, it is called Pararamita. The supreme category and the supreme Leela among all of the incarnations is the Leela of Sri Krishna. Why? Because the Leela of Sri Krishna is where the greatest degree of rasa can be expressed. So this word rasa means the ingredients that make someone happy is called rasa. Technically speaking, it is a combination of factors that come together and create what is called rasa. And when Krishna tastes that, it is called ras. So in Sanskrit language, there is a short A and a long A. So the word rasa has a short A, but when Krishna does any lila, it is ras. Why? Because the word ras or the long A means ashwadan or tasting. So Krishna's always tasting so many varieties of leelas. In fact, I think it was 2 weeks ago on our Sunday Zoom, we described exactly what leela is. Leela is activities that are like the containers of this rasa. So let me just briefly describe rasa because I think it's important. Ras is described in Shastra, Vyatiti Bhavana Vatma, Yas Chamatkara Bharabahu. So the key word here is Chamatkar. Chamatkar means an astonishment, a unique flavor or taste. So I'm giving an example. If you take a very hot day, so in Florida right now it's extremely hot, and you take water, ice, lemons, any sweetener, and you may want to add raspberries, blueberries, or anything else. When you put those things together in the right proportions, it creates an astonishing flavor based on those ingredients called raspberry lemonade. You understand? So it is an example of the different elements coming together in certain proportions and creating something unique. That is called chamatkar. So what is rasa composed of? In rasa, you need what is called an alamban. Alamban means a support for the idea of the rasa. That means two people. One is the object of the ras, and the basis of rasa is love. So the object of the love and the repository of the love. So for example, for all devotees, Krishna is the object of love. He is called the Rasa Vishai, means he's the object of all rasa, all love. And the devotees themselves, headed by Radhika, are the ashraya or repositories of love. Besides that, you need things that stimulate the love. That is called an udipan. So I'm giving one example. Right now here in Alachua, they're reading from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, and they're reading just past the story of the cursing of Jai and Vijay to descend to this world as Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakasipu, Ravan and Kumbhakarna, and then Shishupal and Dantavakra. These are three births that will take place by the doorkeepers and very dear devotees of the Lord, Jai and Vijay. Now we're getting into the section that is describing the pregnancy of Diti. In other words, the atmosphere that took place when they actually descended into the womb of Diti, right? Now, here it's described in that chapter how the atmosphere became very ominous. The clouds were very disturbing. There were great winds and storms and so many different sort of inauspicious elements. So a person just reading Srimad Bhagavatam in a simple way may think, yeah, this is a description of like negativity and what happens when demons are born. But actually, if you deeply understand Srimad Bhagavatam, this setting is called an udipan. The word udipan means a stimulus that makes rasa very tasteful. Like I mentioned when I gave the example of rasa, a very hot summer day. So what is the great impetus to want to taste the ice cold glass of this raspberry lemonade? A very hot day. So the hot day becomes a stimulus, an udipan, to tasting that lemonade. So the lemonade doesn't only taste good because of the ingredients, but it also tastes very good because of the circumstance that produces the kind of thirst that makes, oh, a raspberry lemonade with ice taste so good. So in this way, an udipan is something that stimulates the rasa. You have a similar thing in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, that in the 21st chapter, there is Venugit. Venugit means the song of Krishna's flute and how the gopis experienced it in the early stages of their love for Krishna called Purvarag. But prior to that chapter, chapter 20 describes the rainy season in Vrindavan. So it's describing how Vrindavan looked when the summer season had ended and it begins the rainy season where all of the greenery flourishes, where the river Jamuna crests. So it's giving an udipan to describe the atmosphere of Vrindavan, which will enhance that when Krishna plays his flute, the gopis will feel a very romantic mood. Not to be very mundane, but then I may be dating myself, but anybody can remember during your days of trying to date someone or find a significant partner prior to the pure arrangement that happens in the practice of bhakti, then if you invited somebody out to dinner, invited them to your home, you tried to create this very romantic atmosphere. So the atmosphere becomes an udipan. It's a stimulus for romanticism. So in the same way, a ras has to have udipan. It has to have something that stimulates the rasa or the love between the object and the subject of the love. After that will come what is called vibhav. Vibhav means, vibhav means in Alamban, I'm sorry, anubhavs. Anubhavs mean those feelings which follow the particular meeting and exchange of rasa. Just like, I have to give examples to all these things. If you're meeting that person that you were attempting to date and you're going on your first date, the atmosphere is obviously chosen for its romantic influence, etc., whatever that might be, a walk in the park, whatever it might be. Then, on top of that, you have the feelings of seeing that person for the first time or seeing them after many phone conversations. There's a feeling that comes. That is called anubhav. Anubhav literally means, the word anu means following, bhav means a mood or feeling. So the feelings that follow the exchange or the meetings when the object and the subject of love come together. Those anubhavs can be of two different types. Those that are using our intellectual faculties to express them, and those which are organic, or in Sanskrit they're called swabhavik or sattvic. So let me give an example. If you find out that you've just been promoted at your job, or you've just inherited a great deal of money, or any other thing in the mundane world that makes people happy, you may express that happiness in many ways. Yes, clapping your hands, giving a smile, laughing, calling everybody to let them know. These are all anubhavs following the good news, and now you're giving expression to them, but that expression also involves the application of intelligence. It's not just spontaneous, so to speak. On the other hand, there are feelings which overwhelm your intellectual capacity and force your body into actions that your intelligence has nothing to do with. I'm giving an example. This one is a little more on the negative side, but if you have a very dear one, a loved one, and they've gone to work or they've traveled or whatever it might be, and you're waiting for them to return home, and it gets later and later, some anxiety starts to build. Oh, I wonder why they haven't returned yet. You've called several times and there's no answer. Then finally your phone rings. You're in great anticipation, that's your loved one, but you pick it up and it says, "Good evening, this is Officer so-and-so from the state police." Immediately your heart will start pounding so much faster. Just hearing the voice, tone, and it not being your loved one, but some official. Your heart starts to pound. And then you hear, "Is your loved one's name this?" Even before they may finish the sentence, you possibly could faint because of the overwhelming emotional rise, giving facility to a physiological reaction that's not calculated by the intelligence. It's organic or swabhavik in Sanskrit. So you faint. So this is called sattvic bhavs. And they're 8 in number, like hair standing on end, choking of the voice, change of body color, becoming stunned. So all of the things that we really want ultimately in our spiritual life, we don't want bad news, but I'm just using that as an example to describe what is sattvic anubhavs. Then lastly, there are sanchari bhavs of yachari bhavs, which means 33 kinds of transitory emotions that also take place. I'm not going into detail with those. But the point is, this is what is rasa. And in Sri Krishna's Leela, this rasa is at its highest state. No other Leela can compare to the exchange of love containing this rasa I just described besides Krishna's Leela. Is there rasa in other Leelas? Yes. Even in the Leelas of Vaikuntha, like the story of Jai and Vijay. Even in Ramachandra's Leela, there is rasa. But in Krishna's Leela, that rasa is at its pinnacle. Understand? Especially because in the Leela of Krishna, one of his pastimes is called Ras Leela. And the Ras Leela really literally means Rasanam Sumaha Iti Ras. That all of the various rasas are fully tasted in that one Leela called Ras Leela. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, in the Madhya Leela, chapter 8, it's called Ramananda Samvad, he says there, Samyak Saravasana Krishnera Ras Leela. That of all the different Leelas of all the forms of God, this Ras Leela is the supreme Leela. So again, we're trying to answer the question, why does Krishna need to descend or make an avatar himself personally, even to taste these Leelas? Is there not a spiritual world? Doesn't Krishna have his own eternal spiritual planet? What would be the necessity to manifest those Leelas in this world? So before we get to the Leelas themselves, we're trying to deal with the Siddhanta and ontology of why this happens. So Krishna is also called Rasovai Saha or Akila Rasamritamurti. It means he's full of rasa. There is no limit to how that rasa is tasted. So though by our intellectual calculation, we may think, well, why doesn't Krishna just have his own facility fully available in the spiritual world? What is the need to make an avatar to come to this world? Do we think this world belongs to Krishna or to us? I'm answering this question in a very quick and succinct way. Does this creation, does it belong to Krishna or us? Maybe the Ishopanishad is lying. Ishavashamidam savam yakincha jagatam jagat. The whole creation belongs to Krishna. It is controlled and owned by Krishna. Therefore, if Krishna descends to this world, is Krishna sort of stepping out of his own jurisdiction of the spiritual world? Is there a problem with him coming here? Therefore, it's only from the perspective of us thinking this world is for us and is for our enjoyment. Now we've come to some understanding that we can't fully enjoy here, void of a relationship with God. So now we're thinking, oh, well, this material world is not all it's cracked up to be. So now we're speculating, oh, well, why is Bhagavan coming here? Especially the highest form of Bhagavan, Sri Krishna. Why does he need to come here? So actually, in Sastra, this material world is called Srishti Lila. Srishti means to create. Why is this Lila created? It is created also for Krishna's enjoyment. It is not created as a place that the jivas are being punished. This is a narrative to help the devotees to become mature. Because as long as you have attachment to the world and think it's a place of our enjoyment, it's very difficult to give it up. So the Acharya sometimes use the narrative, yes, this material world is dukkhalayama shashvatam, temporary and miserable, and you're suffering here. And therefore, if you're intelligent and you realize you're suffering, you should get out of this material world and turn and go back to God. You understand? But actually, this Srishti Leela is actually a place of enjoyment of the Lord. So I want to quote some verses and give some emphasis to understanding them clearly. So Krishna says himself in Bhagavad Gita, so he's speaking. He's telling why he comes to this world. Yada yada hi damasha glanir bhavati bharata abhyuttama madhamasha sambhavami juge juge. I'm coming over and over again whenever there is a decline in dharma. So glanya means like a decline. For this reason I'm coming. But you have to go also to the following verses. Why? Paritranaya sadunam vinaschaya jadiskritam. So just this part of that second verse is very important. Why does Krishna come here? Paritranaya sadunam. Sadunam means devotees. He comes to give pleasure to his devotees. Wait a minute, Mukunda, that's not helping me, because then my next question is, what are the devotees doing here? How come they're not in the spiritual world? How come? Why are they coming here? You understand? So, but let me finish this part first. Paritranaya sadunam. He comes to give pleasure to those devotees. So this is something that is a little, requires some deeper level of study. Krishna does not make a distinction between the Nitya Golok Dham, means his own abode in the spiritual world, quote, and Bhoma Lila, or his manifest Lila in Vrindavan in this world. He does not make that distinction. When Krishna descends to this world, to the transcendental Bhoma Lila, Bhoma means earthly manifestation of Vrindavan, is that the spiritual world or is it the material world? This is my question. Just to get another voice in, anybody who's on can answer. Is that place in Vrindavan, is that the spiritual world or is it the material world?
Spiritual world.
Therefore, has Krishna actually ever left the spiritual world?
No.
Therefore, he's simply prakat and aprakat, manifesting or making unmanifest the spiritual world from time to time. It's not that he's descended to the material world. So when it says paritranaya sadunam, it means those devotees who've either descended here for some purpose of service to the Lord, or it means those devotees who are doing practice to realize the Lord. He descends for them. A byproduct of descending to give pleasure to those devotees is naturally by his presence, vinashaya chaduskritam. Those who are duskritinos means those who are adverse to Bhagavan, those who are adharmic or irreligious persons, they are also dealt with as a byproduct. So Jiva Goswami is given an example of this. He mentions that early in the morning, when you want to cook, you'll gather firewood and you'll go to the kitchen area or an outdoor area and you'll build a fire. When you build the fire, simultaneously, it illuminates the area that you're cooking in and it provides heat. What is the principal purpose for the fire? Cooking. But the byproduct is that it creates heat and light. You understand? In the same way, Krishna's purpose for coming here, which is non-different from his eternal abode, he's just manifesting that abode here, is to give pleasure to those devotees who are either siddha, perfected devotees who are here in order to do service, like saving the conditioned souls, or those who are doing sadhana to become perfect, to help them to become enthused in their practice. So paritranaya sadhanam, byproduct, vishnaya cha diskritam, then dharpanam, dharma samstarpanataya. He also then establishes what is dharma. The establishment of dharma has various degrees. In the Leela of Ramachandra, was dharma established? Yes.
Yes.
So really, this verse could also refer to Ramachandra. Dharma was fully established in Ram Leela. Ram was the perfect son, perfect husband, perfect king. He was the perfection of all Dharma. Everything he did was for Dharma. He even sacrificed parts of love to implement Dharma. Because remember, he examined Sita 3 times actually, twice literally, but 3 times actually, checking her chastity. And in the last of those examinations of Sita, Sita says, listen, rather than be examined again, if you feel at all, or if it is true rather, that I have been unchaste in any way, then may I immediately be burned up by the fire. But if I've been chaste in mind and body completely, then may my mother, Bhumi Devi, open up and embrace me in her arms. So, of course, we know the very end of Ram Lila that actually Bhumi Devi takes Sita back into the earth because Sita actually was born from the earth. The word Sita means the end of a plow. So when Janak Maharaj was plowing his land for a sacrifice, at the very tip of his plow, he found the golden box, and that's where they found Sita. So that's how she got the name Sita. Understand? So this proved that in Ram Lila, what was prominent was Dharma. So Dharma was fully established. But still, Ram left. The last part of Ram Lila is so pitiful because Sita enters the earth. Ram can't get her back. And Ram and all the other residents of Ayodhya, they enter into the Sarayu River and give up their lives. Of course, not literally, but they simply enter into the next Leela. So what happens in the next Leela? In the next Leela, what is facilitated is what is considered to be the highest Dharma. What is the highest Dharma according to Srimad Bhagavatam? Is the highest Dharma expressed in Ram Leela? What is the highest Dharma?
Uh, I would guess surrender.
Surrender is a part of it. But what does surrender lead to?
Love.
Love. So Krishna is establishing in Srimad Bhagavatam, love is the highest Dharma. Though we may think in our material frame that Dharma should be according to our material conceptions of right and wrong, just and unjust, etc., in the Srimad Bhagavatam it says, Dharma projita kaitavatra, paramoni matsaranam satam. The Dharma that's being expressed in the Srimad Bhagavatam is for those who have gone beyond self-interest. Paramo nimatsaranam means who's beyond self-interest. Sometimes self-interest is also couched as envy. So nimatsaranam means those who will be on all kinds of envious moods with self-interest. This Bhagavatam is immensely established, importantly established rather, for this kind of Dharma. So Dharma projita kaitava. Any Dharma that doesn't speak about love has been removed from Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam is called Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam. It's the king of all sastra because it establishes the highest Dharma. So Krishna also, when he mentions Dharma samstarpana artaya, what he's speaking about is establishing prem Dharma. You understand? So Krishna says he comes to this world for that purpose. So now one other verse in the 10th canto Srimad Bhagavatam speaks to how that is relevant to us. Again, in the 10th canto, he says, Anugrahaya Bhaktanam. So anugrah means mercy. To show mercy to my bhaktas. Anugrahaya Bhaktanam. Again, the first priority for the Lord when he descends is showing his mercy and love and affection and reciprocating that love and affection, Bhaktanam, with his devotees. Those who are siddha and those who are sadhana practitioners or sadhakas. So this is the real purpose. But then he says, Manushinam dehinam astita. I hope I don't lose my internet. We're having a storm here just now. So then he says, Anugrahaya Bhaktanam Manushinam Dehinam Astita. But also those who are situated in material life, I've also, as a byproduct of exchanging love with my devotees, Bhajate Tadrasi Kritva Yat Shutva Tat Paro Bhavet. In Sanskrit language, the word bhavet is like an imperative, something that you need to or have to do. So he's saying, I've come and demonstrated this wonderful Leela of exchanging love with my devotees, Yat Shrutva, so that if you hear it from a devotee, Yat Shrutva, Bhajate Tadrasi Kritva, you'll develop a desire also to serve me. So remember Jiva Goswami's analysis. When you go to take a fire or make a fire to cook, simultaneously heat and light will come. So two other functions are accomplished. Same way, when Krishna descends to his own abode, which is simply being manifest in this world, to exchange rasa, which I described elaborately earlier, with his devotees, the byproduct is those who are in material consciousness, if they will hear this katha of Krishna's Leela, then they will get bhakti also. You understand? So that's the byproduct. So now we've established, one, the reason why that person who has everything and who's capable of getting anything he wants to enjoy happiness with others. Who are those others? His devotees. Where does he want to enjoy? Not only in his own eternal abode, situated always in the aprakat position, means the unmanifest position, but he also likes to manifest that spiritual dham within the purview of the entire Srishti Leela, in other words, the material creation. So he not only wants to manifest those Leelas in the spiritual domain, but he brings that spiritual domain to the material platform. It's material for us, but it's spiritual for the Lord. Now, a very unique factor also. There are pastimes which Krishna performs in the Srishti Leela, which he does not perform in the Nitya Leela. Understand? Let me begin to explain this before I start to go into Krishna Leela. One is the birth Leela itself does not happen in the Nitya Leela. So in Krishna's abode, which is the unmanifest abode called Golok, the Janma Leela of Krishna does not take place. There is an understanding among all Brijabasis that Krishna is the son of Nanda and Yashoda, therefore he must have taken birth for them, but the Leela itself does not take place there. Similarly, Krishna killed many demons who came to Vrindavan. I'll get into that shortly. But in the eternal abode, beyond the purview of the material universes, those killing of demons does not take place. It's only narrated as Harikatha, and the experience of it happens through hearing Harikatha. Now, I'm going to explain this part here quickly too. In the eternal abode, the Nitya Dham, Jiva Goswami is mentioned. He's giving an example in one book called Gopal Champu. So in this book, he describes that there are two people who recite Harikatha continuously. Their names are Madhu Kant and Snigdha Kant. So Snigdha means very smooth, very sweet. And Madhu also means very sweet, like honey. Kanta means their throats. So because they're constantly reciting Harikatha, they become Madhu Kanta and Snigdha Kanta, very sweet-throated. You understand? When they recite Harikatha to the Brijabasis, and they talk about the Leelas of Krishna, like his Janma Leela, his killing of demons Leela, his cow herding Leela, his Leela with the gopis. They experienced them in the Prakat Leela. You understand? So they're the connection, the sort of connection between the manifest pastime here and the Nitya Leela is not something that's completely separate. For those who realize the spiritual reality, they're living in Vrindavan today. Are they in the spiritual world or are they in the material world? I asked this question earlier. Our Srila Prabhupada, I'm giving an example. Our Srila Prabhupada was living at the Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, where the Samadhi of Sri Rupa Goswami is. In that place where Srila Prabhupada was staying at Radha Damodar is the place where the Ras Leela was performed. Was Srila Prabhupada in the spiritual world or was he in the material world?
Spiritual world.
What could make Srila Prabhupada, even though we were able to see his body and everything, what would make him be in the spiritual world? What is it? Is it his consciousness? Yes. Therefore, what reveals the spiritual world wholesale is consciousness. It's not a locale. It's not, you can't Google, what do you call that? Google Maps, where the spiritual world is. You understand? It's a consciousness. Therefore, the eternal abode and the manifest abode in this world are not two separate places for those who are realized. They are separate places for the aspirant because the aspirant is trying to obtain perfection. Therefore, they see the manifestation of the Maya Shakti while still aspiring for the eternal, pure internal energy. But those who are situated, Savabhutam Yapaset Bhagavam Bhavanatmanaha, they see according to their internal mood. So Srila Prabhupada never saw Vrindavan as a place or city 90 miles from Delhi, etc., etc. He saw Vrindavan as non-different from Nitya Golokdham. You understand? So when the Brijabasis in Nitya Golok hear Madhukant and Snigdhakant reciting this Harikatha, they have the experience of the Leelas that go on here in Boma Leela and the Prakat Leela here. You understand? Like the birth of Krishna, the killing of demons, Krishna's cow herding Leela, his Leela with the gopis. They experience all of that. You understand? Because there's no difference on that level between the two. Now, we've established that these Leelas don't take place. So also for this reason, Krishna appears in the Srishti Leela to carry out those Leelas which he does not perform literally in the Nitya Dham. Like I mentioned the Janma Leela, I mentioned his cow herding Leela, his Leela with the gopis, but also more importantly, Krishna's going to Mathura and to Dwarka to also don't take place in the Nitya Leela. Ujjwala Nimani of Srila Rupa Goswami Pad mentioned those Leelas is called Gaman, Agaman, going and coming, only take place in the Prakat Leela. What is the importance of this Leela of going to Mathura and then to Dwarka? Rasa is also dependent on it because love is divided into two sections. Anyone want to mention the two sections that love is divided into? You're always on the seat, Hari Namananda.
uh, I don't know. I was thinking love and beloved, but
Love and
I know
beloved
that's
that
not
we
right.
already discussed.
Yeah.
Meeting and separation. You understand? So meeting and separation are the two divisions of love. Now, when there's separation, it nourishes the meeting. Just like we have the common saying in the sort of material world that absence makes the heart grow fonder. Of course, that's not always mentioned sincerely, right? But the saying is there. So it's mentioned in Sastra, na vina vipralambena sambhog pushni ashnute. So sambhog means to meet, and vipralamba means when they are separated. So it's saying without the separation. Na vina. Vina means not with. Vipralamba, with this mood of separation. Sambhog pushni means to nourish. The love is not enhanced. So when they are separated and meet again, it enhances that meeting and enhances the taste of rasa in that meeting. So that pastime is performed here. Especially when Krishna goes to Mathura and then to Dwarka, it is a special kind of meeting and separation. So let me explain. There are 4 kinds of meeting and 4 kinds of separation. The first kind of separation is called Purvarag. Purvarag is described in the 21st chapter of the 10th canto in the Venu Gita. The young girls in Vrindavan have come to the age of just blossoming into teenage life. They've also seen Krishna when he chastised Kaliya. And when Krishna chastised Kaliya, the gopis were just coming into that budding age where the whole idea of boy and girl affection was rising in their heart. And when they saw Krishna dancing on the heads of Kaliya, they were so enchanted. They thought, I also want to dance with this boy. This becomes the genesis of the Ras Leela that will take place later on. But the genesis of that is in Purvarag. Purvarag means literally the attraction you develop for someone before you intimately associate with them. You understand? So the gopis had this mood that, oh, I also want to associate with Krishna. He is so enchanting, so beautiful. And Krishna also was aware of it, and therefore he took advantage of it. Give me 1 second. Okay, so before you meet someone, this is called Purvarag. Then when you meet after Purvarag, it is called Sangshipt Sambhog. It means when you meet at that time, it's a very delicate kind of meeting. It's like I've often described the first date you have with somebody. There's no material comparison to these things, but when you go on your first date with somebody, there's a lot of etiquette that's observed. There's a lot of caution around what you say and don't say. For instance, if the lady that you're dating or the gentleman that you're dating, everything is not in perfect order. For instance, if the lady's hair is not quite perfect, if she'll ask you, how do I look? What will your reply be? Oh, you're so beautiful. Oh, what? Just absolutely wonderful. Or if the gentleman forgot after taking lunch to brush the teeth and there's still some food in the teeth, of course, nowadays it's different. But in a very first date, the date may be a little reluctant to tell you, listen, you understand? So this is the kind of shyness and the kind of delicate nature of a first date. So it's called Sangshipt Sambhog. It means kind of brief and kind of filled with a little bit of etiquette, right? Then there's what is called man. Like we know that if Krishna will do anything wrong, Radhika will have a sulky mood. It is called man. So also sometimes the man may come with a genuine cause, or sometimes even if there is no cause, Radhika may become a little salty. So it's described in scripture. What is this? Ahili premano goti swabhava kutilo bhavet. So kutila means crooked. So the very nature of love itself is crooked, and sometimes that's appreciated. That when somebody sort of has a loving relationship, and sometimes either jokingly or maybe something serious arises, or maybe there's a genuine cause like some infidelity or something, or maybe there's perception of infidelity but it's not really there. Anyway, at some reason or another, genuine or not genuine as a cause, there's some separation of the mood. Then after there's some resolution and you come back together again, that is a special kind of meeting, right? Again, I'm dating myself. There used to be songs that I can't remember the song now. And maybe that's fortunate. Krishna is purifying my mind. I don't know. Let me see. Oh, break up to make up. That's all I can remember. Anyway, so it's the idea that there is a certain kind of enhancement to meeting someone after there's been some disagreement or after there's been some difficulty in the relationship. So that is called Sankirna Sambhog. So I mentioned Purvarag and Sankship Sambhog, Man, and now Sankirna Sambhog. Sankirna means when the love is a little bit contracted, right? So after husband and wife, there's some disagreement, there's some words exchanged, and the husband goes out and goes for a walk. The wife, she's sitting, or vice versa. When they see each other again, and if some time has passed, and maybe there's some dissipation of the negative energy that was present, and they want to speak again, the speaking is a little bit measured, right? Because it's like, okay, let's try to discuss this, right? So there's a happiness that we're again being united, but there's a contraction in the fullness of expressing the love because of the previous incident. So there's a little bit of reservation about just being fully open and joking and everything. Next is called pravas. The word pravas means whenever Krishna takes out the cows for grazing, at that time, the gopis are not always able to see him. And in particular, even Mother Yashoda and Maharaj Nanda, they also don't see Krishna necessarily when he goes out to take the cows for grazing. So both in Vatsalya Prem, but especially in Shringara Ras or Madhurya Prem of the gopis, there's a great deal of separation that goes on. Sometime when Krishna is grazing the cows, he will go deep into the forest, and the gopis from the perch either on Govardhan Hill, or sometimes if they're at the house of Shrimati Radhika, either in Yavat, her in-laws' house, or in her father's house in Varsana, she has a special tower where she can see over Vrindavan. And the gopis go there and they look for Krishna while he's cow grazing. If he goes into any cave of Govardhan or goes into a thick part of the forest, they can't see him. They become overwhelmed with separation. Then, when somehow or another, in the course of their daily activities, they meet again, this is called Sampana Sambhog. Sampana means full. So we've missed each other and we fully had desire to be with each other, but Krishna was cow grazing and we was busy. Radhika was with her girlfriends and they were doing their daily activities and they were simply missing Krishna. Krishna was missing them. So then finally they get a chance to meet somewhere and they have Leela together. That is called Sampana Sambhog. Finally, which is to the point that I brought up originally, when Krishna in this Prakat Leela goes to Mathura and to Dwarka, that is called Sudur Pravas. So Sudur means to go very far away. To go to Dwarka, I don't know how many people have been to India here, but Gujarat and Dwarka is in the far northwestern corner of India. And Vrindavan is in the Madhya Pradesh, it's like in the middle place there. And it's a far distance to go. I did go to Dwarka once when I was in Vrindavan. I decided to go to Dwarka, but Ayendra was criticizing me for it continuously. Like, why do you want to go to Dwarka? What's in Dwarka? Anyway, so I went. It's very far away. So when a person goes very far away and the circumstances for which they are there bring them under the control of others, which makes their return very difficult, that is called Sudur Pravas. When you meet someone after a long time and they've come under control of others, and you finally meet again, and there's any apprehension about the ability of that meeting to become permanent, when you meet, it is called Samriddhi Man Sambhog. So for the gopis and the Brijabasis, that Samriddhi Man Sambhog, that enriched meeting takes place when Krishna comes to Kurukshetra during the solar eclipse. You understand? At that time, they meet during the solar eclipse, and they have not seen Krishna, some people say for 70 something, some 80 something years. Now, mind you, in spiritual, emotional time, it's described that in the state of Mahabhav, Kshaнаkalpata and Kalpeta Kshanatva. So the word Kalpa means like a whole 4 ages, right? And Kshana means like a fraction of a second. So when the gopis are with Krishna dancing Rasa Leela, it is Kshana Kalpata. It means like the whole thing, even though it's one night of Brahma, has passed in a second. On the other hand, when they don't see Krishna, even for a second, it seems like kalpas have passed. You understand? So in the Gopi Gita, it's mentioned there, Atatite Bhavan Anikananam Trita Yugayate Tvam Apashatam. When we don't see your beautiful face, even for a second, it appears Trita Yugayatam. It means like yugas have passed. So imagine what 70 or 80 years is like if 1 second is like a yuga. So when they finally do see Krishna at Kurukshetra, the meeting is very enriched. Their emotions are very high. So these are the 4 types of meeting and 4 types of separation. especially this last one, only takes place when Krishna descends to this world. So back to our original theme, the reasons why Krishna makes his descent here to the Prakat Lila. You understand? So now, because our time is moving, something about Krishna's Lila. So it's described that once there was a great king named Devamita. Devamita was a great king in the area of Mathura Mandal. He had two wives. One wife was a Kshatriyani, means belongs to the Kshatriya class, and the other was a Vaishya wife, Vaishya woman. So he married both. From each of those wives, he had a son. From his Kshatriya wife, he gave birth to a son named Surasen. Surasen would become the ruler of Mathura. And his other son's name was Parajanya. Parajanya literally means like a cloud. And he was called Parjanya, and he was a Vaishya who was sort of the lead or head herdsman in Vrindavan. So it's described that Parjanya Maharaj was so magnificent, so magnanimous in his personality, that all of the people, they referred to him like a king. So Surasen was literally a king because he's in the Kshatriya dynasty. But he felt that his brother Parjanya was equally like a king because of the way all of the Brijabasis treated him. So he personally gave what is called Raj Tilak. When a king is coronated, they take tilak, a kind of red tilak, and they put it on the forehead to mark the coronation before they crown a king. So Surasen himself marked the head of Parjanya as a king. Therefore, the leaders in Vrindavan, they're also called Maharaj. Like Parajanya gave birth to 5 sons. Among those 5 sons, the most prominent son was Nanda Maharaj. You understand? And the father of Radhika was called Vrishabhanu Maharaj. You understand? So, Parajanya, having given birth to those 5 sons, I mentioned the prominent son was Nanda. He married the daughter of Varyasi. Her name was Yashoda. So this name is very important, and it will come up very important in describing the birth of Krishna. Why? The word Yasha means fame. Da means to give. So we will see later on as I describe the birth of Krishna that actually Mother Yashoda is the genesis of the mood of motherhood for any and everyone who has contact with Krishna. The archetype or the model of Vatsalya Prem is Mother Yashoda. She gives that fame of motherhood to others like Devaki. And in Ram Leela, that fame of motherhood to Kausalya, Sumitra, and Kaikeyi. So any motherhood regarding Bhagavan, the pinnacle of it is manifest in Yashoda Mai. Okay? So then Krishna's Janma Leela is described. Mother Yashoda and Maharaj Nanda, as they came in their early age, they were unable to have a child. So all of the Brijabasis constantly were giving advice what they should do to have a child. So as years and years went on, and they became older, a little older, a little older, then all the Brijabasis had some deep feelings of sorrow for them. That though they're such a divine couple, Nanda Maharaj, he's called Nanda because he gave Nanda or bliss to all the Brijabasis. Again, Yashoda, her fame of chastity, beauty, sweetness was known everywhere. So for them not to have a child was very sad. So finally, they had reconciled that whatever is meant to be will be. In that mood, Mother Yashoda, she went to sleep one night, and in her dream, a beautiful sapphire-colored boy, looking just like the screenshot that Mitravinda has. A very beautiful, wonderful, charming blue boy, just like that, appeared in her dream. And while that blue boy appeared in her dream, she saw that the demigods were showering flowers. So this is before it literally happens. This is in her dream only. And so she was so amazed and so filled with motherly affection. She was thinking, oh my gosh, this is the son that I've wanted. And similarly, the same dream appeared to Nanda Maharaj. They did not say anything to each other, but one day, one of the elder Brijabasi counselors approached them and he said, listen, we've spoken to Bhagari Rishi. He's the priest of this Braj. He mentioned that in ancient times that there was a great king named Lord Ram. His father was Dasarat. Ram was a very great king, a very wonderful person. But his father Dasarat also had 365 wives, but he could not give birth to a child. So he'd only had one daughter. He had one daughter, right? He gave his daughter Shanta to Romapad, which was a very dear friend and king in another kingdom. But once in the kingdom of that Romapad, there was a great drought. And that king, Romapad, he bought one great Rishi son. I'm not telling the whole story because it will take too long. His name was Rishashinga. Rishashinga was such a pure Brahmin that whenever he would perform a yajna, the results were guaranteed. So it was suggested to Dasarat Maharaj that out of the kindness of your heart, you gave your daughter Shanta to Romapad. Out of the kindness of his heart, certainly he will let now Rishashinga, who's married to Shanta, he will let him come to your kingdom and perform a Kam Putresti Yagya. Kam Putresti Yagya means a sacrifice to get a child, especially a male child. So the Brijabasis told Nanda Maharaj, having heard that story, Bhagari Rishi has mentioned, why don't you perform the Kam Putresti Yagya? So then Nanda Maharaj, he began to speak and he said, listen, if you're going to perform a yagya, you should be detached. You should not go to Bhagavan with any kind of aspiration. So you should simply do the yagya for the benefit of serving Bhagavan, not to fulfill your own desire. So then they were saying, but listen, even great kings like Dasarat, then he told, no, Dasarat was not performing just for his own desire. The reason Dasarat wanted a son was to rule the kingdom of Ayodhya. So it was done for Dharma. It wasn't just a personal desire. Understand? So in this way, the elder Brijabasi said, yes, but all of this time and you're becoming elder and you don't have a son. Then Nanda Maharaj said something amazing. He said, I cannot in earnest perform that yajna. Why? Because I've already seen in a dream the son that I desire. Therefore, my heart already has a desire. As soon as Mother Yashoda heard that, she said, I also had a dream. And they begin to describe the child that they saw in that dream to each other. So while that was going on, all the Brijabasis, only hearing the description of the beauty of the child they saw in their dream, their mouths were fully open. They were experiencing so much pleasure because they've seen many children. But the description that was being given by Nanda and Yashoda was so amazing that the Brijabasis' hearts were so full of joy. And they were thinking, yes, yes, yes. While they were thinking like that, Purnamasi Devi came. Who is Purnamasi? She is the Yogmaya Shakti herself, but she's also considered to be like Guru in Braj. She is the mother of Sandipani Muni, who eventually Krishna will go to the ashram of Sandipani Muni later on in his Leela. That is the mother of Sandipani Muni. And when she came to Vrindavan, she brought two children. One was the son and the daughter of Sandipani Muni. That son of Sandipani Muni, his name is Madhu Mangal. Understand? So she brought that little boy also to Vrindavan with her. So everybody had great respect for Purnamasi Devi. Purnamasi Devi, when she saw Nanda and Yashoda, she raised her hand. This is called giving blessing. Ashivad. I'm giving the blessing that that dream shall come true. So now all the Brijabasis, Nanda and Yashoda, they felt great hope because of Purnamasi Devi, who's such a powerful yogini, such a powerful ascetic woman. If she will give this blessing, it must come true. So sure enough, very shortly after that blessing of Purnamasi, Mother Yashoda began to show the signs of pregnancy. So now all of Braj became extremely happy. Simultaneously, earlier on, the brother, was it the sister or brother? Anyways, Vasudev, hmm, he had married, I think, the hmm, sister of Sursane. Anyway, he marries Devaki, right? No, not the sister. Forgive me. So when Vasudeva is going to marry Devaki, her cousin brother is Kamsa, who is the son of Ugrasen. Some people try to understand how is it that Ugrasen, being such a pious king, could have a son like Kamsa, who was such a demon. But actually, there's a whole backstory to this very quickly. Kamsa is a reincarnation of a demon named Kalanemi, who was killed by Lord Vishnu. How he became the son of Ugrasen is that the wife of Ugrasen, once while she was in the garden, was attacked and forcibly taken by one Gandharva named Dramila. The results of that arrangement was the birth of Kamsa. So originally they were going to kill Kamsa, but then all the rishis told, listen, still this is your child. Whatever will be the outcome of this child is already destined. So don't try to interfere with destiny. So in this way, they kept the child who grew up to be Kamsa. So Devaki, she's kind of the cousin sister of this Kamsa. So when she was married to Vasudeva on that wedding day, Kamsa very joyfully said, listen, I'll drive the ceremonial chariot. So he got on the chariot and he began to drive the chariot. We kind of know the story that he heard what is called an Akashvani or aerial voice that said, the eighth child of your sister, whom you're driving joyously, will be the cause of your death. As soon as Kamsa heard that, because he was so demoniac, and by this time, Kamsa had become an ally of Jarasandha. Jarasandha was the most powerful demon on the planet. And even though Kamsa had many demon allies, Putana, Keshi, Agasura, so many, he all got their allegiance by defeating them. But he could not defeat Jarasandha, so what he did was he married the daughters of Jarasandha named Ashti and Prapti. In this way, he made a family alliance with Jarasandha. So now he felt completely protected. But as soon as he heard he'd be killed, he grabbed the hair of Devaki, took his sword, and was about to take her life. Immediately, Vasudev here has a short A because Krishna's name is also Vasudev with a long A. So not to confuse the two. So Vasudev, Krishna's father and the husband of Devaki, he immediately began to make so many pleas and giving logical arguments to Kamsa. But Kamsa wasn't about to listen. So then Vasudev, he promised, listen, any child that's born to my wife, I promise I will give you that child. So Kamsa at least knew that Vasudev, he was a person of his word. So he had no doubt that he would keep his promise. And he also thought, well, what harm is there? If each of the children who's born are going to kill me, and he's promising to give me those children under the threat of death, because he knew if he would cheat Kamsa or something, then Kamsa would kill them both. So why should I fear now? Plus, I'm in a public arena. My fame, what fame, will be destroyed if I do such a thing in the public. So then he relented under the idea of that promise. Of course, later on, because it's getting late, I have to move the story along. But later on, he would imprison Vasudeva and Devaki to make sure they gave the children. So this happened because once they had given birth to a child, and they took the child to Kamsa, right? So Kamsa said, this is not the child that will hurt me. It is the eighth child that's going to kill me. So he gave the child back because he said Vasudeva was being very honest. Enter Narada Muni. So Narada Muni comes to the palace of Kamsa and he tells him, listen, the demigods are very tricky and you know the demigods want your life. So what they may do is they may calculate that even though this child has appeared first, they may reverse the order. So the first child is actually number 8 and they'll count backwards, 8, 7, 6, 5. So then Kamsa, he said, what? So this may be the 8th child? So then he called Vasudeva and Devaki and arrested them, put them in prison, and killed that first child. He'll kill 6 children in succession after that, and then a 7th child will come. Now, when Vasudeva realized the atrocities that Kamsa was going to perform by locking them up, he gave word that his other wives, especially Rohini, should all flee from Mathura. And he told Rohini to stay with his good friend Nanda Maharaj and his wife Yashoda. So Rohini Devi was already pregnant with a child. So even though it was the 8th child of Devaki, which Kamsa felt threatened by, he was willing to kill any of the children born to Vasudev. So Vasudev sent his other wives to other places. And he sent Rohini, as she was already pregnant, to Vrindavan. At that time, the child that was in the womb of Rohini was Balaram. So now, when the 7th pregnancy of Devaki came, then Krishna gave the order through Yoga Maya that the child which is in the womb of Devaki, the name of that child, so you have to listen carefully here because this is all described in Gopal Champu, but it's not something we hear very often. That child was called Sankarshan. Who was Sankarshan? He's an Angsa or a expansion of Balaram. So that Sankarshan in the womb was Yogamaya personally went to the dungeon of Kamsa and caused a, quote, miscarriage. She personally went there and took the form of that Sankarshan. And then going from Mathura to Vrindavan, that Sankarshan created a transcendental conduit between Mathura and Vrindavan, which attracts everyone to Vrindavan because the name Sankarshana means, San means all, Akarshan means to attract. So that which attracts everything to Vrindavan is called Sankarshan. So he created a conduit of attraction from the opulences of Mathura and anywhere else to the sweetness and beauty of Vrindavan. When he enters into the womb of Rohini, he merges with Balaram in the womb of Rohini. Now, when the 8th child comes, then Kamsa hears about it. But what happens? When that 8th child is born, Devaki, she's praying, oh my Lord, because how does the 8th child appear to Devaki? Some backstory I have to tell here. Formerly, Vasudeva and Devaki had taken 2 births. One is Prisni and Sutapa, and then one is Kashapa and Aditi. So then, in the first birth, the Lord appeared to them because of their austerities as Prishnigarbha. In the second birth, he appeared to them as Vamandev. So they were so pleased in having the Lord as their son that when the Lord appeared, they asked him, oh, please, may life after life you appear as our son. We always want someone like you. And as soon as they said like, the Lord said, there is no one like me, so I will appear personally as your son. So now Devaki and Vasudev, when the Lord appeared to them in the dungeon of Kamsa, he appeared as Narayan with conch, disc, lotus, and club, fully crowned, all regalia of Narayan. And they begin to offer prayers. First, Vasudeva offered prayers, glorifying him as the supreme personality of Godhead, Sri Narayan, all-powerful, almighty. Then Devaki took her turn. She began to glorify the Lord. Oh, the almighty Narayan. Suddenly, in the middle of her prayers, she says, listen, in fear of Kamsa, can you please take the form of a small baby so that I can hide you? So I want you to just take a minute and try to digest the logic that God, as Narayan, all-powerful, undefeated, has appeared before their eyes. But Devaki suddenly decides, you should become like a small baby because I'm in fear of Kamsa. So my question here is, how could such a feeling come to Devaki if she's looking directly at the Supreme Personality of Godhead in all of his power and opulence, Narayan? This is my question. So anybody can answer?
Yogamaya's potency.
Yogamaya's potency, yes, but something more specific.
The maternal instincts.
Maternal instincts and Yogamaya are both the right answers, but how? You're looking at Lord Narayan. He's God. Why would you be afraid of Kamsa? And even if Kamsa comes, do you think God could protect you?
The separation? No.
I mentioned earlier, Yashoda's name is Yashoda. She gives the fame of motherhood to all others. So Jiva Goswami is described amazingly in Gopal Champu. When Devaki was making these prayers, she began to feel the upsurge of motherhood. Where was that upsurge coming from? The heart of Mother Yashoda, who had just now also given birth to Sri Krishna himself. So Krishna first appears in Vrindavan to Mother Yashoda. You understand? And while he's laying on the bed, Mother Yashoda is absorbed in the bliss of having given birth to that very baby she saw in the dream. Then, in her overflow of her love, that flow of her love travels in the same conduit created by Shankarshan, enters the heart of Devaki. Devaki then makes an unusual prayer in paternal affection of Vatsalya praying to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, can you become like a baby? But Narayan cannot become Krishna. Krishna is the origin and Narayan is his expansion. So that Narayan can't become Krishna. So in the verse in Bhagavatam, it says, then Atma Mayayam, by his Maya, he assumed the form of a baby. But then Jiva Goswami expands on it. He says what happened was that Sri Krishna himself, again traveling with the help of Yoga Maya in that transcendental conduit that Shankarshan created, goes to Mathura himself and gives darshan to Devaki. When he gives darshan to Devaki, he takes the form of Narayan into his body, and he will use that form of Narayan to kill the demons in Braj. Krishna doesn't kill any demons. He's only enjoying. So he takes the form of Narayan that appeared to Vasudeva and Devaki. It is that form of Narayan that kills the demons. Like Putana, Agasura, Keshi, Trinavarta, Sakatasura. Krishna is only doing various leelas and playing. He doesn't kill any demon. Actually, Vishnu is killing the demons. So now, once he arrives there, miraculously, the gods fall asleep. Now, I just want to ask one question. If you work for Kamsa, and Kamsa has told you, as soon as any baby is born, you report to me, and you know what Kamsa's nature is, would you fall asleep on your job?
No.
So how did they fall asleep? Didn't Shah mention? By Yog Maya. So Yog Maya made them sleep to that prakosh, means that chamber of reality in which this pastime is going on. Then Krishna tells Vasudeva immediately, by the influence of Yoga Maya, be freed from the shackles of Kamsa's dungeon. I can't go into it here because this is actually a katha that takes weeks. I'm trying to compress it. But actually, there's a whole teaching behind, as soon as he saw the darshan of Krishna, his shackles were released. So it means when one obtains his perfection, their sojourn in the material world is immediately gone. So then he tells, immediately take me to Braj. Again, what is the meaning here? Krishna's telling to Vasudeva, though in Mathura, Krishna's there in opulence. There's some sweetness, but predominated by opulence. And in Dwarka, it's all majesty. So similarly in Mathura, there's part opulence, part sweetness. So he tells him, take me back to the land of full sweetness. Take me immediately back to Vrindavan. So then, as he's leaving the dungeon, it begins to pour rain. What happens when it pours rain? The third expansion of Balaram appears as Ananta Sesh and covers Vasudeva as he's walking back to all. Now, this is the other thing. Obviously, this is the influence of Yoga Maya because they saw Vasudeva walking with a basket with the 8th child of Devaki with a huge serpent over his head. You think maybe somebody would have alerted Kamsa there's some strange stuff going on here? So this is all happening by the influence of Yoga Maya and in the conduit created by Shankarshan originally. So that conduit is called a prakosh. Prakosh means like an alternate chamber of the Leela, right? Just like in sometimes there's a movie and the movie has an alternate ending. So this is an alternate chamber of the Leela. So now he's carrying Krishna back. And when he arrives, immediately after Krishna was born to Yashoda Mai, a baby girl was born. I'm going to ask here because many devotees don't really know truly who the baby girl was. Who was the baby girl that was born to Yashoda immediately after Krishna was born? And Mother Yashoda was overwhelmed in ecstasy at Krishna's birth, so she unconsciously gave birth to this baby girl. Who was that baby girl? I'm asking.
I'm saying Yokomaya, would that be
Dorga?
Subhadra? Durga.
It's a form of Yogmaya, but it's not Subhadra. This is the thing. Subhadra is a separate daughter of Vasudeva, some say in Rohini, some say Vasudeva and Devaki. But she is a separate daughter, and I'll explain that in a minute. That girl that was born after Krishna, her name is Krishna Anuja. Anu means following, Ja means the birth of Krishna. She took place, her name was Krishna Anuja. She is a form of Yogmaya that will transform into Mahamaya. I'll explain in a minute. So when Vasudeva arrived there and he went into the Garbhagriha, it means the room. I've been to that room where Yashoda gave birth in Nandagam. So then he placed Krishna down on the bed and took the baby girl. Yogmaya, the original Yogmaya Shakti, the expansion of her is this girl Anuja. And Krishna told, listen, when you leave this Vrindavan, I want you to remove the covering of Maya. And I want you to expand your Maya throughout the material world by taking various forms like Maya Devi, Durga Devi, Kalima, all the different forms of Maya in the material world. So, the deity that Kamsa worshipped was Kali. He worshipped the deity of Durga, or Kali. So when she came back, when Vasudeva came back, got back in the shackles, and they heard the baby cry, Kamsa came. He said, "Oh, a baby girl is born." All the babies that had born prior were 6 sons, and then one miscarriage. Now this baby girl is born, so Devaki was pleading, "This is only a girl, a small baby girl, harmless." And of course, Vasudeva and Devaki was also thinking, this baby's actually the child of Mother Yashoda. And we've taken that child to save our own child, Krishna. So they were very, very remorseful stage. So Kamsa, he was unrelenting. He said, "No, give me." So in the Bhagavatam and in the commentaries that describe, there was actually a tussle between Devaki and Kamsa for that baby girl. So then Kamsa finally forcibly grabbed the baby girl and he raised the baby girl and he was going to dash her on a rock to smash her. As soon as he lifted her up to smash her, she escaped from the grip of Kamsa. And as she was rising, she said, "You've always prayed for my merciful, touch my lotus feet." So she kicked really hard Kamsa in the head. "Here is your boon that you prayed for." So she kicked Kamsa in the head and she flew in the sky and said, "You fool, the eighth child that you want to kill has already been born elsewhere, along with all of his Shaktis," meaning that Radhika and all the other gopis, they will also be taking birth very soon. So he said his Shaktis have also appeared, meaning their appearance was imminent. Then he said, "You fool, you can never kill me. That eighth child will certainly kill you." And then she disappeared and she manifests throughout the world as all the various forms of Durga Devi and Maya Devi, Mahamaya. Kamsa became very despondent now. So he told Vasudeva and Devaki, "Listen, what has been done has been done. You should forgive me. It was my fault. What can I do? Everyone wants to save their own life. So you can go back to your home now." Then all of the different demons who were associates of Kamsa came in. And among them was Putana. Putana came in and said, "Oh, Master, why are you so despondent? This is not a big task. You're the most powerful demon in the world aside from Jarasandha. This is an easy task for you. Commission me." And then Kamsa thought, "Yes, I want you to go and kill every young child that was born in the last 10 days. And any small girls that you see, you collect them and bring them to me." So, of course, immediately 6 days after the birth of Krishna, Putana will come to Nandagan and, disguising herself as a heavenly damsel, she'll go in and want to offer breast milk to Krishna, and then Krishna will take her life. I don't want to go into the discussion of all the demons because, again, that will take the entire rest of the class and it's already late. Whoa, I didn't realize it was that late. So, in this way, one demon after another came to Braj and they were all killed by Krishna. Then, in the second iteration, because remember, when Krishna, prior to his appearance, all of the demigods, along with Mother Bhumi, in the form of a cow, went to the shore of the ocean of milk and prayed for Krishna's descent. So one question comes up here. Why is it that Mother Earth, Bhumi Devi, took the form of a cow? All the demigods headed by Brahma, they all went to the ocean of milk that's manifest in this universe. There's the actual expansion of the Kshirodaka ocean in this cosmos. They went to the shore there and they said their prayers, and the Lord answered their prayers. But why did they ask Mother Bhumi and Mother Bhumi take the form of a cow? In the very last Leela, what did Mother Bhumi do? She was the one who took Sita into the earth. So now, to inspire some compassion from the Lord, she took the form of a cow because Krishna is called Govinda, who's very dear to that Govinda, the cows, the goats, the gopis, Govardhan. So she took the form of a cow just to be an impetus for the Lord to show his compassion. But the Lord already told, already I've planned to come. So all of you demigods, you take birth in the Vrishni dynasty and you'll help with my pastimes. You understand? So many of the demigods took birth there. Same time, many demigods, they kept their posts simultaneously. So anyway, so this is the reason she took the form of a cow. So now that Vasudeva and Devaki had exchanged the baby girl for their Krishna, who was Narayan, who took the form of Krishna, now all of Krishna's leelas in Vrindavan will begin to unfold. So I'll end with one verse that describes what is called the Nandutsava. Nandutsava is going to be Sunday, which is the day after Krishna's birth, but it expresses the mood in Vrindavan after Krishna's birth. Nandastu Atmaja Utpone. It's also a very important verse because it proves that actually Krishna's actual birth is in Vrindavan, not in Mathura. So Nandastu Atmajo Utpone. So here it's saying Nandastu Atmaja. Atmaja means that person who's born from me. Utpane means he became having been born. Utpane means manifesto having been born. So that person born directly from Nanda Maharaj. Jatala do Mahamanaha. Therefore, Nanda Maharaj's mind became very happy. Alad means blissful. Ayuya, Vipra, Veda, Gyan. He called all the Brahmins in Vrindavan and he told them, Ahiya, Vipra, Veda, Jan, all Brahmins. Shnata, Suchya, Lankrita. But then another thing is inserted here. Nanda Maharaj dressed every day in the regular garments that cowherd men wear. But on this day, he went and he took a special snan in the Jamuna River. And he took out his high-class party dress. And he had his mustache oiled. So all these descriptions are given in the commentaries. So on this day, he was very, just like a father, a new father. In the material world, mundane things like giving him a cigar is done. But here, all kinds of wonderful things were given to Nanda Maharaj. And also Nanda Maharaj's sister, who was acting as the messenger. So she would come and tell when Krishna was actually born. At that time, Nanda Maharaj, he had a necklace that his sister always coveted. So immediately upon her coming to him and saying, your son is born, he took off that necklace and gave it to her. So this is describing the magnanimous mood that he was in. Shnata Suchi Alankrita. He dressed himself very wonderful after taking bath in the Jamuna. Vaichitva Swastivayanam. He told all the different Brahmins and sadhus, chant the Swastivachanam, right? Which is an auspicious Mangalacharn, like an auspicious prayer. This is the most important line in this whole verse. Jata karma atmajasya vai. And also certainly all Brahmins perform the Jata karma ceremony. The Jata karma ceremony means the cutting of the umbilical cord. So this verse is the verse that proves that Krishna appeared directly from the womb of Mother Yashoda and had to cut the transcendental umbilical cord. Therefore, it's mentioned in one verse in Bhagavatam, Jayati Jananivasa Devaki Janmavado, that Krishna is actually born Jaya Jananivas to the Brijabasis, meaning Yashoda. Devaki Janmavado, his being born to Devaki is a theory. That means you have to understand the philosophy, the Siddhanta of how he appeared to Devaki. So Devaki Janmavado. He wasn't born to Devaki. Narayan appeared and gave darshan to Devaki. She had the feelings of him being born. There's a whole commentary on how Nanda Maharaj realized Vasudeva in his mind and obtained the pure state. He transferred from his heart to Devaki's heart. This describes the process of Diksha. The original commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam says that the process of Diksha is illuminated in how Vasudeva realized Narayan and passed it to the heart of Devaki. So this is a vad. This is the theory or siddhanta of the appearance of the Lord to Devaki. But to Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, it's described that he took birth. Nandastu atmajo utpane. He took birth directly from Yashoda's womb. Another verse in Gopi Geet says, Jayati de adikam janmana vraja. That Braj has become glorious because the Lord took his birth actually here. So then Karyan Asha Vidbat, oh all Brahmins, take care of all auspicious activities and then come and make sure all of our ancestral line, Priti, Devacharanam, and all the demigods are also satisfied in worship. So he did all auspicious things for the birth of his son. So this is the actual birth, according to our acharyas, of Sri Krishna. Shri Krishna Janmasthami ki jai. Hari Bol. So
Hari Bo. Hari
Hari
Krishna.
Bol.
Thank you so very much. Jai.
So it's very difficult to squeeze this katha. Usually a katha that goes on over like a week's time. But we want to try to compact something to give the idea and to give the deeper understanding that's mentioned by our acharyas of this birth. Because if some people will say, like Srila Prabhupada, because we couldn't have understood these things at that time. He said, yes, he's the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, and he's the foster child of Yashoda. Because we understood what foster children meant. You understand? But then when you read Srila Prabhupada's books closely, like I'm reading from the Bhagavatam here, Prabhupada said, no, he's directly born to Mother Yashoda and Maharaj Nanda. So any quick questions or comments?
I have a quick. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just cut you off.
No. Mother Isho, Hari Bo to you, Mataji. I have a quick question. When you mentioned where Yogamaya, the goddess Durga, or I can't think of what I'm trying to say, when she went up in the air, not goddess Durga, but the incarnation where their baby was exchanged, and she told Kamsa, she kicked him in the head. Did he realize at the time that was the same goddess Durga or Mother Kali? That he?
Yes. Okay. She tells him. Yeah, in the commentary it says his worshipable Ishtadevi, who was like Durga, manifest to him. This is why he became humble afterwards, because he was completely bewildered, because he's worshiping Durga to get all his material power and everything. So now he's feeling that very Durga has abandoned me. So am I doing something wrong? This is all, you understand? So that's why he's bewildered. Then he becomes re-enthused by hearing from the demons like Putana, Keshi, and others saying, listen, we're behind you. So and he becomes emboldened. And he begins to send them one by one to try to track down Krishna.
Haribo. And then you just one other real quick, that Jayati Janani Vasa, Devaki Janmavado, that part where you said that the way I've always heard it interpreted, he's the son of Devaki and Yashoda. So what is that word where you translate it to? Because I've always heard it that way. Devaki Janmavado, son of Devaki and Yashoda, but you just mentioned that differently.
Mind blowing I'm about to do now. The Acharya mentioned how this is. In the Adi Purana, it's mentioned, Nanda Paraya Dwi Namne Yashoda Devaki. The wife of Nanda Maharaj has two names, Yashoda and Devaki. Adi Purana. So you could look up in Chaitanya Charitamrita, I believe it's there, but I'll also find it and send it. So Adi Purana, Dwi Namne, Nanda Paraya. Nanda Paraya means the wife of Nanda Maharaj. Nanda Paraya Dwi means two. Namne has two names. Yashoda Devaki. Then the Acharyas go on to explain, Yashoda means, Yash means fame, like I mentioned in the beginning, and Da means to give. She gives fame to the wife of Vasudeva to experience Vatsalya Prem. And then they quote this verse saying that the umbilical cord appeared between Yashoda and Krishna, not between Devaki and Krishna. So the actual translation of that verse is Jayati Jananivasa. Those who are Jananivas means Jananivas, they translate sometimes as the people of the world. Jaya Jananivas, Krishna is the housing of all. But here the acharyas mentioned Jaya Jananivas means Braj, his own place. So Jaya to the Brijabasis, Jaya Jana Nivas, those who his own Brijabasis. Devaki Janma Vado. The word vad in Sanskrit means a vad, a theory. So it is a theory, and to understand this theory, you'll hear from sadhus how Narayan appeared to Devaki, and then Krishna came and subsumed that form of Narayan. That's why it's a theory. The actual birth doesn't take place to Devaki. But by Yashoda's mercy, she gives parental affection to Devaki. And she also has the two names, Yashoda and Devaki.
Haribol, thank you.
Ishopanishad.
Jai Haribol, Hare Krishna. You are just so wonderful. So,
No,
this
Gurudev is
is
wonderful, Prabhupada is wonderful, Krishna is wonderful, Radhika is
exactly. Well, I really appreciate you sharing this best time. I was working and I couldn't hear everything, but you did mention something about Yashoda's daughter, her first
Yeah,
child. What was her
yes.
name again?
Krishna Anuja. Anuja means the girl who's born after Krishna. Literally, Anu means after or following, Ja means born. And Subhadra is the daughter of Vasudeva and Rohini. Some say Vasudeva and Devaki. The reason that they gave birth to another daughter and raised her with so much affection is because they felt bad that they had taken the daughter of Yashoda and that whole incident with Kamsa happened. This is why Subhadra became very special. And everyone showed so much affection to her.
And where can we read that pastime or
Gopal Champu
Gopal Champu? Okay.
of Jiva Goswami.
Okay. Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Yes. All the things I'm describing here, they're in Gopal Champu. Because it's the most complete description of the actual happenings. Like in Bhagavatam, I mentioned, when Narayan becomes a baby, it just mentions there, he assumed the form by his Atma Maya, by his internal energy. But Jiva Goswami gives the details, what happened. Also, Ishopanishad, just as I mentioned here, very wonderfully, the Deidra who stayed with you in Gitanagari, she took a Harinam and Diksha. So her name is Dainya Shakti Dasi.
Say that again. What's her name again?
Dainya Shakti Dasi.
Dainya
means humility. Yeah, Dainya means humility. And Shakti means power. So Dainya Shakti is actually another form of Radhika.
Haribol.
Yeah, she's very mature devotee. Very mature.
That is really amazing. That is really amazing.
Yeah, when I was traveling, I went to Syracuse in the course of my travels, and she had been listening to classes for some years now.
Really?
And then she came to upstate New York when I was doing my Harikatha in upstate New York. She came down there as well with all the Syracuse devotees. And then she came to visit me here at home. She had a conference in Jacksonville. So she came here and stayed at our house with me and Mohini and everything. And she took her Harinam and Diksha, which we had planned.
That is so amazing, all because of the conversation and going to attend a darshan with you, having a program. Isn't that amazing?
She was listening to classes, which I didn't know. She had been listening to classes for years.
Okay.
Yeah, I never knew that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's really
I got a text today. Oh, maybe you can stop the recording because this is off topic.
Okay.
But listen, but I got a text today from a devotee from, I got to look at it now. Where is he from?